All right, so crypto airdrops. Everyone's talking about them, and free crypto sounds pretty tempting, right? But I gotta ask, is it really that simple?
Well, not quite. It's definitely more than just, free money falling from the sky. Think of it like this whole strategic thing, almost like early funding for these new crypto projects that, show some promise.
Ah, so it's not just about us grabbing some tokens. These projects are trying to achieve something with these airdrops, right?
Exactly. They're trying to gain some traction, build up their community, reward those who are in early, that kind of thing. And for the users, well,
Yeah.
it's a chance to get a piece of the pie just for being involved. It's meant to be a win-win.
Okay, that makes sense. But before we get too far ahead, can we rewind a bit? How do these airdrops actually work in practice? Is it really as easy as having a crypto wallet, or is there more to it?
Sometimes it is that easy, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But there are often a few more steps involved. First things first, you got to stay informed. Social media, crypto forums, those are your friends. That's where projects will announce these airdrops.
So you really got to be in the know.
100%. And even then, there's usually some criteria you have to meet, some hoops to jump through. Some projects might require you to, say, hold a certain amount of their token, maybe even a completely different cryptocurrency altogether.
Oh, interesting. So you might need to already be somewhat invested in the crypto world just to even participate.
Sometimes, yeah. Others are more about showing that you're genuinely interested, that you're not just there for a quick buck. That could mean joining their Telegram group, retweeting their announcements, stuff like that.
Putting in a little effort to show you're serious. Got it. I've also heard this term thrown around, snapshot. What exactly does that mean in the context of airdrops?
Good question. That's where the timing gets really important. Basically, the project will take a snapshot of the blockchain activity at a specific time. And if you happen to be holding certain assets at that precise moment, bam, you qualify for the airdrop.
Wow, talk about being in the right place at the right time. Okay, let's say you tick all the boxes, meet all the criteria. What happens next? How do you actually get your hands on those tokens?
So usually there's a process where you register your wallet address, maybe through a specific platform the project uses, and then they'll verify everything just to make sure everything's above board. You're not trying to cheat the system or anything.
Yeah.
And if you're in the clear, boom, the tokens land directly in your wallet. Pretty seamless.
That does sound pretty slick. But, and I hate to be a downer here, like with any opportunity, I'm guessing there are some downsides to keep in mind too.
You're definitely catching on. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, that's for sure. While free crypto is obviously enticing, there are definitely things to be cautious about.
Don't leave me hanging then. What kind of risks are we talking about here?
Well, regulation is a big one. Airdrops are still kind of in this gray area when it comes to regulations in certain parts of the world. Some places might view them as taxable income, believe it or not, or even classify them as securities. So yeah, doing your homework on the legal side of things is crucial.
Ah, so free could come with a tax bill attached later down the line. Makes sense. What else?
Then there's this concept of token dilution. Basically, if a project airdrops, let's say, a massive amount of tokens all at once, it can actually impact the value of each individual token, at least in the short term.
Makes sense. Supply and demand, even in the crypto game.
Exactly. And of course, we can't talk about crypto without addressing the elephant in the room. Scams.
Hmm.
Sadly, there are always people out there looking to take advantage, especially with all this airdrop hype. So yeah, staying vigilant and being cautious is super important.
Absolutely. So, how do you separate those legitimate opportunities from the potential scams? What are some red flags that people should be looking out for?
Honestly, it all comes down to due diligence. Research the project thoroughly, their team, what their goals are, the whole nine yards.
Yeah.
If something feels off, like if they were asking for your private keys, then yeah, just walk away. That's probably not worth the risk.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to fall for something shady chasing free crypto.
Yeah.
So, research is key, but let's say you've done your homework and found a project that seems legit, everything checks out. Besides just getting more crypto, what are some of the other potential upsides of participating in an airdrop?
Well, like we were talking about earlier, it can be a really good way to get in early on a project that has the potential to really take off, almost like being one of those early investors. But instead of putting in money, you're contributing your, I don't know, your crypto enthusiasm, I guess.
And hopefully, if the project is successful, that enthusiasm turns into some actual profit down the line, right?
Right. And it's not just about the financial side of things either. Airdrops can be a really powerful tool to build up a strong community around a project, especially when they're tied into things like governance rights. It really gives people a sense of ownership and encourages them to stick around.
That makes sense. It's one thing to just hold a token, but having a voice in how a project is run, that's a whole other level of involvement. And speaking of governance and these more, I don't know, complex aspects of airdrops, you mentioned yield farming and staking earlier. Could you maybe unpack those a little bit and explain how they tie into all of this?
Of course, of course. So the crypto space is all about these systems that kind of like interconnect and build on each other. Yield farming, for example, is kind of like putting your crypto to work.
Yeah.
You're using it in these decentralized finance protocols to earn interest on your crypto. And now some projects are incorporating airdrops into the mix, rewarding users who are actively participating in their what they call DeFi ecosystem.
So you're already earning by like providing liquidity or lending out your assets. And then on top of that, you get an airdrop as a bonus just for being an active user. That sounds like a pretty good deal.
It can be. It definitely can be.
Yeah.
And it's not just limited to yield farming either.
Yeah.
Staking, which is basically where you lock up your crypto for a set period of time to help support the network, that can also be part of the airdrop equation. Some projects will offer airdrops as an extra incentive for people who stake their tokens, encouraging that long-term commitment and all.
It's like a loyalty program, but for crypto. It really seems like these airdrops are becoming more and more sophisticated, moving away from just these simple giveaways to being a really core piece of how these projects operate.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's a sign of the space maturing, for
Yeah.
sure. And honestly, the numbers don't lie. Back in 2021, something like almost $5 billion worth of tokens were airdropped, which is just, it's incredible when you think about it. This is not just some small thing on the sidelines anymore. It's becoming a major part of the crypto world.
Wow, $5 billion. That's a huge amount of crypto being pumped into the system. It really makes you wonder, what's next for airdrops? Are we going to see even more creative uses for them in the future, or what?
Yeah, it feels like we're seeing a shift from airdrops being just a marketing tactic to being a much more fundamental part of how these crypto ecosystems work.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on where things go from here?
Well, one of the things that really fascinates me about this whole airdrop thing is how it kind of flips the script on the old way of doing things, the centralized way. It almost feels like a glimpse into a future where online communities, they're not just these passive users anymore. They actually have ownership. They're active participants.
That's a huge difference. It's like, are you just a customer or are you a part owner?
Exactly. And that shared ownership, it's powerful. When users feel like they have a say, like their actions actually matter, that it can impact a project's success, it changes the entire dynamic.
Right. You're not just hoping the price of your tokens goes up. You're actively trying to build something you believe in. And that's what I think is so interesting about this evolution of airdrops. Sure, it's partly about aligning incentives, but it's also about this fundamental shift in how we view these online communities and what it means to have decentralized ownership.
It's like those projects are saying, hey, we're not just building a platform here, we're building a movement.
And that, to me, is what separates the truly innovative projects from the ones that are just trendy for a minute and then disappear.
It makes you think, could this whole community-first approach, powered by these increasingly strategic airdrops, be the key to building something sustainable in the crypto world?
Well, I guess that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And while there's no crystal ball, it's definitely something to think about every time you hear about a new airdrop opportunity.
100%. So for our listeners who are hopefully just as intrigued by all this as we are, what are some of the main takeaways they should keep in mind?
The biggest thing is to remember that airdrops are just one piece of the puzzle, right? They can be a great way to get your foot in the door, explore new projects, maybe even earn some rewards along the way, but they should be part of a broader strategy.
Right. It's not about just chasing every airdrop that comes along. Do your research, diversify your portfolio, all that good stuff.
Exactly. And I'd say when you do find an airdrop that piques your interest, don't get too fixated on what the token might be worth. Take a step back and ask yourself, what's the bigger picture here? What is this airdrop trying to achieve in terms of building a community and contributing to the project's long-term success?
Is it about more than just getting those free tokens? Is it about creating that sense of shared ownership, of a shared purpose?
Exactly. At the end of the day, the projects that are really going to thrive are the ones that understand that real value in crypto and in life comes from building those strong, engaged communities, empowering the people.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, I think that wraps up our deep dive into the world of crypto airdrops. We hope you found it insightful and maybe learned a thing or two along the way.
Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and remember, knowledge is power, especially in the crypto world.